Happy Rosh Hashanah. So today's Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the Jewish New Year. And the intention is for this holiday is clarity. It's refreshing. It's you can look back on the year previous, how you want to change it. And as I mentioned in my email, for those who get the emails, you go through 10 days of reflection of your past year, and Yom Kippur is at the end of the 10 high holy days, and that's when you do repentance and atonement for the things you want to let go of, the things that you wish you had done differently the past year, and setting your intention for the new year. So it's a holy time, and in honor of that, Jack, Julian, and I watched Fiddler on the Roof on Friday night. It's funny, when I say that movie, everybody has like a different song that they burst out in. It's great. But you know, that's what's great. As we were watching it, so our theme this month is practical spirituality, and today is our walk in God. And we're going to take a walk through sort of an average day of how we can bring spirituality and make it practical in our everyday life. And what was interesting, because that's on my mind, and we're watching Fiddler on the Roof, their life was infused with God. The tradition of the Jewish culture, and I'm sure of all religions, but this was a movie about the Jewish tradition. He begins the movie with that. He said, we have a reason for everything. We have what our prayer shawl to remind us of God that we wear every day. We have ways we're supposed to eat our food. The way they have a little prayer that they put on the door, and every time he passes it, he kisses it. Everything that we do has a reason in God. And the movie itself is about him having to let go of those traditions. His first daughter doesn't get married by a matchmaker, but her fiancé does ask to get his permission. The second daughter doesn't even ask for permission, just asks for a blessing. And the third daughter marries outside the faith completely, which is sort of one step further than he could take beyond tradition. But as we have moved so far away from tradition, because many of us may identify as spiritual but not religious, we've left so many traditions behind, and often in leaving the traditions behind, we have let go of rituals and things that can remind us of God. Now, I know everyone here has some sort of spiritual practice, or you wouldn't be here. But we want to walk today through how the intention. I'm going to bring up some ideas throughout the day, and it's not for you to do all of them, but to start thinking about this week. How can I start creating rituals in my everyday life throughout the day so my life is infused with God? Just as I was watching, it was very touching to watch. He in the movie, it begins with him talking with God. And we talk about, in the old idea of God, God's way up in the sky and far away. But there's no question that there was an intimacy that he felt. Like his life, it was constant conversation with God about everything that was happening in his life, good and bad. It was a constant dialogue with God. And so everything, his inner life, his outer life, was infused with God. So we can start looking at, as we're looking at the Jewish New Year, of what rituals that we want to bring into our life. We can use some from religious traditions or brand new ones to bring God in our conscious awareness in everyday life. So we begin by when we wake up. All right, well, I've talked about this a while ago, but having a daily prayer mantra. So it could be anything. It could be God is, the easiest is just I am, just saying I am throughout the day. Or God is I am, or I am love, or I am peace. But it's a short, simple phrase that we just sort of keep going on in our head. And in Hinduism, it's called the japa, or I don't know if the J, you pronounce the J or not, hapa or japa. And you just say it all day long. So when you first wake up in the morning, a way to remind yourself to start your mantra. Because often our mind is going, we're still processing dreams, and if it was really important dream, write it down. But otherwise, it can be a distraction, or the energy from the dream is taking off. So you just want to get right into God is, I am, or something like that. So it's nice to have a possibility of having something right on your bedstand that you just touch. You don't just look at, you physically touch to remind you to start saying your mantra or your prayer for that day. It reconnects you with your highest purpose. So the moment you're waking up, you're touching something. I know in some Catholic traditions, they wake up and do the cross first thing in the morning as a way to remind them. So something that you physically do to remind yourself who you are and why you're here. And then as we move in, many people take a shower, brush their teeth. Well, first of all, you all do your spiritual practices, meditation, and all that. But since that's all God, I won't go into that, but I know you all do. After your hours of spiritual practices, we brush our teeth, we take a shower. So because that's a routine, well, let's talk about our ego for a second. Our ego likes to stay unconscious. Our ego likes to be familiar. It likes comfort. It doesn't want to be pushed too much out of its comfort zone. So it runs on habit patterns that we don't have to think about. So brushing our teeth and taking a shower could be a perfect example. We just brush our teeth and take a shower. It's a habit pattern. We don't have to think about it. It's very comforting to just have this routine that we do where we don't have to stay awake. So all of these things are about asking us to wake up, to become more conscious. And what that means is to become more alive in the present moment. How many of you have read Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now? Great. And when you were reading The Power of Now, did you feel more alive as you were reading it? Because he kept bringing you into the now. And what happens in the now? Everything is alive. There's no past precedent. You're not living from the past. You're not planning the future. You're living fully in that moment. And that's where the aliveness happens. So can we experience that aliveness taking a shower and brushing our teeth, what we do every single day? The only way we can bring an aliveness to it is by being conscious that we're doing it. So one of the first things that we can do is being a witness to the fact that we're taking a shower and brushing our teeth. When I mean being a witness, I know most of you know what that means. It means that part of you that can watch yourself. So just right now, you can be aware that you're sitting in a chair, that your eyes are looking in a certain direction. If you look down, you're aware that you're looking down, and there's a part of you that's aware that you're looking down. If you look up, you can watch your arm move around. And then when we get really good at it, we can watch our thoughts, and we can see that I'm not my thoughts, but I have thoughts. There's an I am that has thoughts, but I'm not thoughts. So you witness your thoughts and your feelings. So when you're in the shower and brushing your teeth, you can start practicing. Everything is about waking us up beyond our body-mind identity, to grow and expand beyond the familiar, the comfortable, everything that the ego tends to be drawn towards. We're sort of pushing ourselves past that. So just witnessing ourselves, brush our teeth, take a shower with no judgment, no good or bad. I'm doing it right, I'm doing it wrong. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look how pretty I am. Oh, look at that. All the judgments. Just watching yourself. That immediately opens ourselves up to a bigger space. None of this has to be dominating. Well, and you can do as much as you want, but as you do it, then in that moment, now you're in a bigger space. It's a great time to set your intentions for the day if you didn't do it in your previous spiritual practice, it was prayer work. And the intentions, to me, there's three basic intentions that, we all have our own personal, unique expression of them, but I think there's a quality to all three of our intentions for the day. One is to wake up. I hope that everyone in this room, on some level, wants to become a fully enlightened being. Is there anyone who doesn't? Please raise your hand. So that's one intention, is that somehow today I'm a little more awake by the end of the day than I am this morning. And then I think two things. We want to be a blessing for other people and be blessed. We want to expand a little and maybe receive a little bit more from our day and also give a little more. We have been recently singing Use Me at the beginning of every service. To have that intention, use me. I remember a friend was visiting me in Cleveland, and we were invited to a holiday party of relatives that were I don't know very well. She didn't know. She's from South Africa. So neither of us really wanted to go, but I remember she just stops me and she says, "Harriet, let's just go with the intention that God's going to use us today. Let's not go to a party and sort of figure out how to do small talk. Let's just go to be used." And we both were at Agape, which is a spiritual community in LA at the time. So we go to this party, and somehow we're just hanging out with this other young woman, and this young woman happens to be going through a very difficult crisis time in her life. And we just start talking with her, getting a sense of where she was, what she believed, and she was very much on her own, but started saying things like, I'm spiritual but not religious, I believe in God, but the religions aren't helping me. So we started telling her about what we believe in Agape, and oh, you live in Denver. There's a great Centers for Spiritual Living in Denver. And the ultimate thing is that she ended up going to the Centers for Spiritual Living in Denver, which is, by the way, the biggest Centers for Spiritual Living there is, and getting very involved in their community, having all these healing expressions. So we had... That's cool. Dance break. Everybody get up and dance. Where's Yvonne? No, so Denver. Oh yeah, use me. So in that time we moved from going to a party from the small self, are people gonna like me? I don't know what to say, to use me. It completely shifted the entire tone of the day, and we felt so fulfilled by the end of the day. So when we start our day and we're expanded and we're in that witnessing consciousness, use me. Use me in a way that I can't even imagine, that I don't know ahead of time. There's sometimes we know how it can be used. Use me in a conversation. Use me in a prayer that I can speak. Just use me. And I would like to open up and experience a little bit more of life myself, have a little new adventure, a new experience today that I've never had. Because God is infinite. God is always, why we call it new thought is because there's always something new that has never happened before, that has no past precedent, that is wanting to birth itself through. That's what the whole Fiddler on the Roof movie is about. New things are happening. There's still new things happening, and to allow ourselves to experience it rather than resist it, to go towards it. So I want to experience something new in my own life. I want to be a blessing for someone else, and I want to be fully enlightened by the end of the day. Not too much to ask. I have to say, I won't say names, but there's in one of the classes we did talk about our intention for like the following year, and someone did say, I'm fully enlightened by next year, and it was fantastic. Have those big dreams. So if we just do that, and it will be unique and specific to us, we're witnessing ourselves and we're setting our intention. Again, it doesn't have to take the entire time you're in the shower. It doesn't have to take the entire time you're brushing your teeth. But those are touchstones to remember, here's a time to be spacious, to set my intention for who I want to be today. And then we go and we have breakfast, and we all know the tradition of saying grace before breakfast. I personally have noticed that we did that all my childhood growing up for all 3 meals, and it has stopped feeling meaningful to me. So one thing I learned, and touches me more, is rather than like blessing the whole meal, is just acknowledging one bite for the meal. So when I take a bite, to remember, okay, for me to have this grain, let's say I'm having like an English muffin, grain, the soil that needed to be tilled, the farmers who had to till it, the grain, the people that needed to grow this, if there are workers who had to pick it, the machines that we needed to use, and then the industry that got it to factories, that got it to the grocery store or to farmers market, whatever we're eating, fruit, that everything that it took for that one bite to enter my mouth. So just one bite per meal. So I'm not trying to overwhelm us, do it every single bite, but just take a time for one bite to remember everything that it took. Again, we're in this expansive world. Now we're moving beyond just our small little self, and we're acknowledging all the people, and not just the people today, but all our ancestry who have farmed lands, all the evolution that created our industry, our industrial complex to create machines, and all of it, without judging any of it in that moment, and just give thanks for all of that for this one bite of food that I'm about to have. That's when I start to feel authentic gratitude and connected to a much bigger world system than this little table where I'm eating my breakfast. As you'll notice, all these practices are opening us up beyond our own little small self. And then we go to work. Not everybody does. Maybe you work from home, but we're just picking an average day. You might go in the BART, you might drive on freeways. Again, a wonderful process that everybody who's around you is the life of God. Just to remember, everyone here is an expression of God. There's nobody on this freeway, there's no one on this BART who isn't a whole perfect and complete expression of God. And at the same time, and I love Treo Wilbur brought this to me, which I always loved, I'm also one with everybody in suffering. That everyone that is on this freeway, everyone that's on this road with me, everyone that's on the BART with me, has a whole long history from childhood. They have a whole story and their ancestors. And every person who's been on this freeway with me, everyone who's on that BART has gone through suffering, has had deep grief in their life. Everyone that I've been that I'm going to work with has had incredibly sad things happen to them, as well as incredibly joyful things happen to them. And we're all going to work, trying to survive, thrive, all with our individual, but everyone is precious that I'm working with, we're all going together to work, towards work, to become something, to find something. And so then we enter, and then, this is my other favorite thing, this comes from Joel Goldsmith. I'm throwing out all these ideas, you're going to create yours this week. But I always loved it. He said, when you close your door, always imagine, he said, don't lock your door until you've accepted that God has already gone before you. You may have heard me say this because I love it so much. God has gone before you and made the crooked places straight. And so that as you are moving into your day, God is moving to meet and greet you because it's already gone before you. So recognize that even before you get in your car or go to the bar or go to wherever you're going, shopping, errands, that God's already there meeting you. So when you walk into a place, you're walking into a place that God has already, and this is all creative imagination, but it opens us. So now we've been in these BART, the cars, we're with all these people. Again, we're moving beyond our body mind. It doesn't have to be the entire time we're on the freeway or the entire time we're in the BART. These are touchstones to continually move us past our own natural desire to be egoic and self-absorbed. Not that we're evil people, it's just what we do. So we have these practices that are pushing us past that. We go into work, we have all our tasks, our mind are going, we got to get this done. I have this conflict to deal with, I have this project that I'm working on, I have this relationship that I have to work through. And we have all this stuff that comes up that, again, everyone has different work lives. How do we bring the practical aspect of God into that? Prayer. You all know that. You set your intentions. What we want to do is to remember the intentions that we set. So some of you have heard, because I don't keep it too quiet, are my chimes that go off every hour. And that's to, actually it's a bell. And it's just to be like, bong, like remember who you are. like don't forget. And I actually got that idea when I worked at Agape. They wired up the whole building. It was a pretty big building with a chime that would go off every hour, and everybody had to stop. It didn't matter if you're in the middle of a conversation, if you're in the middle of a class, and this has happened many times where someone is in the middle of like, there's just the agreement that in that moment you just stop whatever you're doing and you have to go within, and you just go in for a few minutes, you open your eyes, and you continue. It's a way to constantly touch. Remember, we're talking about bringing God into every aspect of our life. And everyone has different lives, and I can't speak, to every job, but a lot of jobs are just very much in the secular world. There's no acknowledgement of God. I know when I was a kid, that always used to get to me, that I loved church. I loved learning about the love of God. And then all week long, no one would ever talk about it. Like it seemed like it didn't even exist. And I thought, why is this so important on Sundays? But we talk about every other thing, but God, the love of God, being kind, none of that was ever brought up. We need to bring it in. We are that light, and we're sort of in this world that doesn't recognize it, so we do it quietly to ourselves. So even if you have something that vibrates, that doesn't make a noise, that isn't going to attract attention, just to remind you as a jolt, remember who you are. And then you have your lunch and your one bite, and you're remembering to remember. And then there's these conflicts that arise. And to recognize the one last thing I'm going to say about work. There is a belief, I think sometimes, that everything should be simple or easy, and it often never is. And just to allow whatever arises without judging, it shouldn't be this way. It should be something other than what it is. That expectation is exactly what often causes the unwillingness to just be fully present, the power of now with whatever's arising. There was a lot of heated discussion on our ministers' listserv this past week. And people feel very passionately because they've given their life to this teaching, and their interpretations of what it means and what we should be doing as an organization comes up with a lot of passion and anger. And then you have some people saying, well, you shouldn't respond that way. You know, we're ministers. This has to be a safe place. And someone said, well, I think I am being safe. I think you're being, and it's amazing. And then this one woman shared last night, she said, what I notice is I can be around a lot of conflict and challenges, but when I come to the minister's listserv, my expectation is there's going to be no challenges and conflict, that we're all just going to get along and be peaceful, and that's why it hurts her so much. She said, because my expectations are different. There's another minister there. In fact, one of the things we were talking about was the Black Lives Matter, and he's African American. And in our organization, I don't know what the percentages are, but there's far more white people than black people. And there were some things that were being said that just sort of were cringe-inducing. And what I noticed about every one of his responses, was extraordinarily loving. If anyone had a right to be offended, it was him. And yet he always found a point of agreement and said, and I disagree with you, but I love you. And for me, that was one of the most healing experiences. He didn't have the expectation that people should write a certain way or behave a certain way. He was going to choose love no matter what. And he can be very vocal himself, but he didn't have all these conditions. As I was reading him, that's what I started to experience, all the conditions that we put on life. And what if we just took all of our conditions away? All of our, this is what it should happen, this is the way it should be. And when we show up with what is, with a loving and open heart, with a willingness to be the presence of God, that's when actually change starts to happen, because then I see it before me in his communications. It's been incredibly healing and inspiring me, saying, oh, this is something I want to aspire to have someone who really stands in that, what it looks like. Well, we get to be that in our work life, what it means to stand in what is without putting conditions, our moral, that doesn't mean we're not discerning. So even as he was loving, he still was absolutely standing that the Black Lives Matter movement is important. But he wasn't going to dismiss people who didn't think it was important. He wasn't going to fight them. He was going to love them and say he disagreed with them, but love them. And that no conditions. Stand for what you believe and be who you are at work. Don't give up who you are. Don't give up what you believe, but always stand in love. And we can do that without the expectation, when we let go of the conditions. And this hour-long chime, these chime that we do every hour can remind us to remember who we are, who we want to be, the intentions we set earlier in the morning. And then we go home, we do all the same things on the way home. And remember that everyone who's going home is going home to different experiences. Some people are going home to a wonderful, loving partner, peaceful home. Other people are going home to a family full of noise, and it's going to be just as exhausting when they get home. Other people are going home and they're going to be all by themselves, which is either a sad thing or a happy thing. So everyone's going home from work with expectation. So again, our compassionate heart as we are going home from work or from wherever we are, recognizing that everyone who is going home is going towards God. And we don't know what they're going home to, but we bless everyone who we come in contact with. And then we have the rest of our evening, and we end our evening with, and we have our bite of food, blessing all the people. And then the way we end our evening is very much what I was talking about last week, the three qualities. But we're really is humility, forgiveness, and gratitude. What if every night we went through our day with a heart of forgiveness, a heart of forgiving ourselves first and foremost for not living up to whatever intentions that we had? What if we had the intention and the willingness to forgive other people who have hurt us, who have offended us, who have crossed our moral barrier, and being willing to forgive? And if we're not ready to forgive, to allow ourselves to ask for forgiveness for that. I'm not ready to forgive in this moment. Please forgive me, divine infinite self, for not being able to in this moment, and that's the humility. I'm just not there yet, and that's okay. So we go, and then as we do the forgiveness work, we move into gratitude. We set our intentions for waking up that day. We set our intentions to experience something new, to go outside our comfort zone, and to be a blessing to someone else. Go through your day. Did those 3 things happen? Were you a blessing to anyone today? Were you a blessing to someone who doesn't even know you, or as they were driving by you or cutting you off, you gave them a genuine blessing instead of remember, instead of something else, and they don't even know that you just blessed them, but you can give gratitude that in that moment you remembered who you were and who they were and you blessed them. Be grateful for, as what we put our attention on increases. Be grateful for the ways you are blessing people. And be grateful for the way you've been blessed. And be grateful for the spiritual consciousness that you might have had during the moments of realization, of remembering who you are. Be grateful. One way to expand into our enlightened self is to be grateful when we recognize that I was sort of conscious today. But again, so this is it. That's the day. Suddenly, spirituality is very practical in your everyday life. You're going to experience yourself returning with an open heart, where life becomes a little softer, and it sometimes takes time, but we start to see the impact in the external world as we start showing up more consciously. So the invitation this week is to start seeing what rituals, those were just ideas, but you may, not you may, I'm sure many of you are already doing things. Some of you in class have shared things that you do, but just be conscious, is it happening all through the day, and is it working for you? And then there's one last thing, which is, 2 last things. What I think all of this is about coming alive. I think what we're longing for is to become more fully alive. And the question is what does that even mean? I think people who do extreme sports, people who are always traveling is great. Extreme sports are great. I don't mean to put those down. It's not. But I think it's because we want to be more alive. We want to be more awake. And we travel where suddenly everything's new and fresh and it's exciting. And the mundaneness of everyday life feels like we're more dead. It's just like, we're in our habits. We're in what's familiar. We're in what we see every day. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm showing, and we can feel dead. And then I'm reminded, I think I might have shared the story one other time. I can't remember. But it comes back to me all the time to remind me. When Father Maximos went to Mount Athos, which is an island full of monasteries, it's been there for since the 9th century. They are not part of the world. And he made the choice to go. And he said it was my first day there, and they had just been for hours just sitting there praying. And it was dark. And he said, "What did I do? I just left the land of the living to come into this place that's been here for hundreds of years with just dead people. They're just sitting here." And he says his thoughts in his head. He said, suddenly this man comes from out of the shadows and whispers in his ear, "We're not the dead people. We're more fully alive here than anyone out in the world." That the aliveness is something that comes from within us. It comes from consciousness. Over and over, people have experiences when they're in the presence of these monks of feeling like their soul is being seen through, because there is a higher vibration. When we think about being alive, what happens is density is being released. We're becoming lighter beings, and that's when we feel alive. And that's what's happening in that interior world of those monks on Mount Athos. They become lighter and lighter beings, and that's when we feel the most alive. So that, to keep that vision, that ideal alive, as we're going through our day, is this experience, am I responding to become a higher and lighter and higher vibration being, or am I getting pulled down into density? Am I getting pulled down into that? Because that's what the ego's constantly doing. And that's why they call it prayer work. Because it actually, Shunryu Suzuki, I always hated that he said it, because now I know it, and I don't like knowing it. He said, when you're tired, and he doesn't mean just physically tired, when you feel tired, it's your ego that's tired. And I'm like, dang. Our ego likes moving on automatic. It just wants to be comfortable. Just don't make me feel uncomfortable. Don't stretch me too far. Our higher self wants to push us past that. So when we talk about having these rituals throughout the day, you may find throughout this week, I would love to do that, but somehow I forgot today. I just couldn't remember to do it. Or, oh, there was just too much going on today, I'll do it tomorrow. We do that because we don't want to change. And it's going to take work to wake up. It's going to take work to become these expanded, enlightened beings. And this is what every serious spiritual tradition and mystic work with, is what we do to constantly keep ourselves comfortable and familiar, because it's hard. And I'm saying that because sometimes when we talk about, oh, this is great, we'll do all these spiritual practices through the day and we're going to feel so good, but it's hard and we find all sorts of reasons not to do it. But here's what I wanted to say about that. If you even end the end of the day and realize I didn't do anything today, and you're honest with yourself, because I really didn't want to. It wasn't because I was so busy or because it was hard. Just acknowledging that, you've just made a shift. You've just acknowledged that that your ego is, you've separated yourself from your ego. You've just said, there's something greater than me that can recognize that I didn't want to do that, but there's also something that recognized it. And even if you do that every day, you're going to start waking up. You're going to start having blessings in your life because you're becoming more conscious of how the small self is running you. And we really want our big self. So we don't want to use anything for punishment. We use everything to wake us up, even our unwillingness to do rituals or practices throughout the day, because it's hard to do every day because our ego gets really tired. And it's just too hard to push past my familiar habit patterns. It's like working out. You're pushing past your boundaries. It's hard and it's tiring. So this is a path to have deep compassion for yourself. And the way we do that is by being honest with ourselves. Be honest with yourself first and foremost. Just be honest. I didn't feel it. It's my thing with Julian. Homework. I couldn't remember. Just admit it. You wanted to play. It's not because of this or the other. And I'm like, let's just work on being honest without judgment and see where we go with that. So, that's what we're working with. Just let's be honest what you really want. And is that really what you really want? Ultimately, is that what you really want? Let's be honest on our spiritual journey. That's the most practical spiritual principle we can bring. So this week, our intention is to become fully alive throughout the day, to bring the aliveness of pure spirit, to bring the aliveness of this light, to bring the aliveness and the joy of this and the freedom of living fully and presently in the moment without expectation, with an openness and an availability way beyond any habit pattern that we've had before, way past what's familiar, past our past precedent. Our willingness to go into any place without condition, not just good places, any place with our heart wide open in God, not to the race-conscious thought around us, but in God, in this absolute truth. And that every ritual that we can come up with during the day to practice this, to become more rigorous with it and more humble with it. Rigorous and yet compassionate when I can't keep up to that. That's how we bring spirituality in a practical way into our everyday life. So this week, this whole month is so cool. So this week, are you going to start working on the rituals that you're going to do throughout the day? Yeah. Is anyone going to be honest and say no? I'm sorry, I got too busy a week. Start next week. It's okay. If you want this, only do it if you really, really, really want it. And I think you do.